First sub off. Sub on. Yo, yo, yo. What do you do? My name is Dripment. We're going in for the win. And we're going over this Marauda Casket remake that I just made. Let's go ahead and listen first off. You know what it is. Big, heavy guns, trying to get in that Marauda zone. I'm trying to recreate and referencing his track. I really had to keep pushing the sound, keep getting it bigger and fatter. A simple rhythm flow here. That's the foundation, and then the sub is going to be crushed with the actual guns. So these are the guns soloed. That's the stereo, and then this is the mono gun. Combining both to get a nice full loud image, stereo image, and then we add the sub, crushing them all together. So this is the final result that you're hearing. This transient layer, these two layers here, and this sub, all being pushed in this group with the multiband dynamics, saturator, and there's just some other effects. But the saturator is turning up the sub and the actual guns together. We want to look into the gun maker section. So to get this audio sample here, we had to create it. And we actually have a really nice group here that creates tearout guns by layering multiple samples, getting the sub in it as well. So we're going to check out this group first. So that's the gun maker, and then the final sound sounds like this without the gun maker. So a little bit different, bigger sub, bigger energy, but to get everything started, we have to enter the maker. So first off, if you look at this group, this is holding a loud rack, which involves an OTT, saturator, OTT, saturator, EQ8, glue compressor, utility, and JST clip. All these things are helping turn up the sound to get it louder. You can copy these settings. Main thing we're looking in is the drives on saturators, the amounts on the OTTs, the outputs on the OTTs, and then these compressor settings too. JST clip is clipping it at 0 at the end and then turning it up a little bit. So the whole group is going to be pushed with the loud rack. Then dispersers will happen before the loud rack. These are going to be used to add a lasery transient. It's going to amplify the lows. It's going to turn up these frequencies here. And we're going to have 2 of them. So it gets even fatter. We'll be able to measure these here shortly. So you can see exactly how powerful and important they are. If we open the group, you go ahead and see there is the mixology room. And this is another group. If we click on this, we have a G clip on it. This is meant to push the sub and the guns together. So this is the first instance of us pushing the sub with the guns together, G clip. If we open up the mixology room, you'll see there's the sub and then another group, which is all the guns. And all the guns are just audio samples. The guns group is important. This has to be separate from the sub. The sub is low frequency, so those have to be separate from this guns group. That's why it looks like this. And then on the guns group, we add reverb. We add EQ to clean up the frequencies, cut out the lows. Reverb to make it wide, spacey. And then we turn it up as well with the multiband dynamic. That'll be your group to put all the guns in. And once you're looking for guns, you can look for gun samples. So I would love a different tearout gun, so I used one of these here. This is also where we're going to create the flow. So we are using triplet flow. Command 3 will enter triplets, and you'll be able to see that these line up on the triplet grid. So we're making triplet flows with these tearout songs. That's going to be really important. I'll also be fading the gun. So you see it's faded here. If I want the tail, I'll keep it up. But if I don't want the tail, I put it back down. So I can control the tail, control the dynamics of each gun, which is really important when shaping and creating our sound. So I had one gun here. Mine has some transient shaper to make it punch harder on the transients, which is the beginning, the attack. Then we add some reverb to this layer. Short to decay always. High, dry, and wet on this one, 55%. EQ8 cutting lows and turning up some highs. This EQ8 cutting lows as well. So that's the first layer. We want a reverb layer. Reverb off. So we're adding space with this convolution reverb to be exact. Just giving it a different tone. You see, you can change these settings and get a lot of different amounts of a variation to the pitch and the tone. Next is an excellent gun. More focused on like a lasery sound, cutting out the lows. Got to make sure all these lows don't add up. Remember, we have the sub here for the lows. So we're cutting the lows of these guns. We're going to also, we can turn off all these processing on the group. We're here to go from scratch. So you dragged in a sample. It could be one of these guns. It could be a bass one shot, be anything that you like the sound of. Something with a lot of frequency content. And we're also making sure that everything's tuned. We're in D minor. So if this is an E, pitching it down to D. Very important that we're playing the root note here of our scale. So since everything's in D, we're going to add another gun from me, which is also in D, to the excellent one. Now we're creating a new sound. We're at another gun, another bass one shot. We're going to make sure that we also cut the lows out of all these sounds. Then we'll add all three together. We're going to add another layer. This one's meant for metallic. So I get a percussion sample, add a corpus, start adding some tones to it. You can tune it to what you like. Make it wide and make a nice transient layer. So the ones up here are for the tail. These here are for the transient, which is the beginning of the sound. A clap as well. Just used to make it punchier at the beginning. So punchy beginnings, full gun, full bass sounds with tails. Then we're adding all of these 5 together. They can go an extra step and add even more guns. So here we have even more guns loaded, but this time in MIDI. You can add more tones, more support. And just make sure that they're tuned to your root note, D, and that you're also cutting the lows. So we can just keep stacking as much as we want until we like the sound. You're going to get to the point where you have a nice sound. You can then EQ8 all the lows. And then you can add the sub. So the sub is also going to be running D, right? We pitched it down to D. And the sub will be separate from the group. So we'll listen to the guns and the sub now. Now we're going to turn this G clip off. This is what yours should sound like. Just regular big sub with the guns. Now on the guns, we can add some reverb to make it spacier and wider. You can add multi-band dynamics to also make it louder. Now we're at the point where we want to squish the sub and the guns together. So we have a nice sounding gun, add the sub, and then in the mixology room, we turn on G-clip and push the signal 5.8 decibels. So both of them get loud together and crunch and crush together. So now we can listen to that. This is the first step to getting it heavy. So before, just regular, small, after. And we're really creating a new sound. Now pushing it, making it sound deep, fat. Now remember, we have another group, the gun maker, that has those dispersers. It has that loud rack. So we're going to listen to with it off. So that's G-clip turning it up. We can actually go all the way back so you can see. We'll turn G-clip off. Go to the guns, turn these off. So your gun should sound pretty small. Nothing too crazy. Then you add your sub. Adding the post-processing to the guns again. Mixology room, we turn it up with the G-clip now. Then we go into the gun maker and we start adding disperser. So let's listen to it before the disperser. Add 1. Add 2. Then we add the loud rack. And now this is really compressing it. It's almost getting it to the point where it's over compressed due to these OTTs. That's kind of the sound of dubstep. You know, we use a lot of compression. We push it to the top. And this is the loud rack that we went over previously. Dispersers, loud rack. And this will push the final sound. Now, once you have this group with a nice flow, remember, we're making a flow in 4 bars. Always 4 bars, call and response. So the song starts off with the sustain and then goes into the guns. As soon as that snare hits 41.3, that's when this starts. Listen again. At the beginning, we do some triplets, faster triplets, and then slow it down. Now that's the flow. So then after you have this isn't going to be the final result. It's not heavy enough. So then we have to resample it. And to resample it, you would solo the group, make a new audio track, and turn on resampling right here. Once you select this, you'll hit the record button over here. And then you can simply hit the record button up top to record the group. Now we'll do that. So I'm going to move this over here, and we're going to do it right here. The problem is when we start recording, the sidechain is taking out the signal, and we don't want that to happen while recording. So we're going to turn off the sidechain. Remember to be doing this, and then re-record it with the sidechain off. Boom. This is our first layer. Remember, all the effects and stuff that we added, all the reverb makes this one really stereo. And this one almost starts to lose its mono presence because of it. So after I have this layer, which was this one, we can leave it as is, which would sound like this. Or if you'd like, you can also see the imager, what it looks like. We don't have a strong presence in the middle. So then we add it with this mono. This is the same exact recording, but we're clicking off the multiband dynamics, saturator, and reverb. The audio track that we recorded on with the stereo layer will have EQ8 and reverb. The reverb will make it wide, put it in space. EQ8 is cleaning. This is on the stereo. Then on the mono, only the EQ8, no reverb. You can even delete all these. And this EQ8 even cleaning up more frequencies. And the most important part, utility is turned on mono to make the signal in the middle. Now if we look at this in the imager, now I have a strong mono presence, which will be with the sub. The sub's mono, this will be mono with the sub, and then we have that big stereo spread, basically supporting everything and getting it down. Cool, so then we'll listen to just stereo. Then we'll add the mono. Now technically, you may have phasing issues if you were to do something like this. If the signals are exactly the same, frequencies can cancel each other out. You have phase polarity right here that you can mess with. Lots of different tricks that you can switch the phase up so that things are not phasing. The polarity will help. So you can mess with it, look at what's going on. Right now, this sounds fine. We're going to turn it back on. Now we have both of them together. So 2 audio tracks now from that group that we made. But then we want the sub. So we're going to add that big fat sub. This is just an analog BD sign sub. Wavetable position all the way up. LFO looks like this on 1/2, making that gun shape. And listen to what this sounds like. Then we add kick tight to make the sub fat. That's a Corpus preset. EQ8 is cleaning up the sub. Saturator turning up the sub. Camel Crusher turning up the sub. Clean saturation will add very awesome even harmonics in your sub, which will make it cut through the speakers if you don't have a subwoofer. It's on mono because it's a sub. EQ8 is also cleaning the sub frequencies from the saturation. If you turn this off, you have a sub, but it's not clean. So we clean it up. These are not doing anything. Then utilities, just turning it down a little bit. Erosion, adding a little bit of white noise. But most importantly, the G-clip. So the G-clip's on right now, but off. So usually the sub is weaker. But then what we do is we turn the G-clip on and we turn it up 3.4 dB. And we make the sub even fatter. Then we combine this fat sub with those 2 layers that we just made, and we put them all in a group, which is the final saturation group. And we're turning it up with multiband dynamics. We turn off the lows though, only messing with mids and highs here. 34%. Saturation is turning up and bringing the sub and the guns together. Digital clip, 8 dB, 50%. These are extra effects. We're going to listen to the final saturator guns with the sub included. First sub off. Sub on. Remember, we need to turn the sidechain back on as well because we just finished recording. Now we can listen to the drums with this. By the way, this transient is just a very small extra transient layer for this final group too, which I recommend. You have a nice little transient layer. It could be anything, just something fat for the beginning, something punchy. Now we got all of them together. Add the drums. Now you heard that. That was phasing. The drip gun maker is on. So we got to remember, turn that off. We don't need to use this anymore. Now we're just using the final saturator gun group. You know what it is, man. If you like this, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and my Patreon will have this project in full, so you can go ahead and get the flow. Otherwise, watch this whole video, recreate it your own, and start getting the power of the tearout guns. Shout out to Marauda and his amazing music. Peace out.